The St. Louis Cardinals have finally made some roster additions. Plus, we'll be discussing some of the position battles to keep an eye on this spring. This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I am your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Give us a follow on Twitter, X at JD Sports Radio, as well as the podcast at LO_Cardinals. Want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also available on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification button so you don't miss a single episode, because this right here is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Thomas Gauvain from RedbirdRants.com back with us here today, nursing a Super Bowl hangover. I am sure rough game for the Chiefs last night. Thomas, I feel like the shocking part about it all was just how easy Philadelphia made it look against this Kansas City Chiefs team. They won 15 games this year, a lot of close games, but nonetheless, I think that's what caught everybody off guard was how big of a blowout it was.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling great. I went to bed at 9 o'clock. I saw it was over, so I just called the night. But yeah, the Eagles had their way with the Chiefs last night. Nothing much they could have done.
Yeah, they just proved to be the better team. A lot of weapons, and that defense was absolutely sick. So usually after the Super Bowl, the NFL season wraps up, people turn the page to the Major League Baseball season. I know that NBA is in full swing. Just had their trade deadline last week. March Madness coming up next month, but people start to get excited about baseball around this time. Pitchers and catchers reporting this week, and the Cardinals, who hadn't done a whole lot so far this offseason, still yet to sign a single major league free agent yet. I believe they're still the only team that hasn't done anything when it comes to free agency so far, but they did make a couple of additions at the back end of last week. Let's talk about the trade, because it's something we've been discussing before together, was trying to get a right-handed bat, like a bench bat of some sort. The Cardinals sent cash considerations to the Minnesota Twins in exchange for utility man Michael Helman. The motivation for the Twins for this particular deal was not that something's wrong with Helman and he sucks or something. It was just they were trying to clear some 40-man roster space after signing former Cardinal Harrison Bader to a one-year deal. They also grabbed a relief pitcher as well. But Helman is 28 years old, right-handed hitter. Made his major league debut last season, recorded 10 at-bats, 3 for 10. So he's a career 300 hitter, Thomas. 2 of those were doubles, 3 strikeouts, but former 11th round pick in 2018 out of Texas A&M. Injuries last year kind of cut into his season at AAA, but I'm going to give you these numbers, and you're like, well, he's not that bad, I guess. 271 hitter, 14 dingers, 18 doubles, 47 ribbies in 72 games at Class AAA St. Paul. Has been described as a versatile defender, played all 3 outfield spots and third base during his time with the Twins. 1,400 innings at second base in his minor league career, logged more than 1,000 innings in the outfield, much of that in center field. So that's always good when you can find somebody who can play all of them, but specifically can pull off playing center field. And, he also played a little bit of shortstop last year, 31 games at shortstop at AAA. I will point this out, that of the 5 total errors that he made at AAA last year and the major league level, 4 of those were at shortstop. So I can't tell you that he's a really good shortstop, but it sounds like he can pull it off if the Cardinals need to use him there in a pinch. A very Cardinal type of guy, right, Thomas? Versatile. He's got some speed, right-handed bat. He's cheap. Your thoughts on bringing in Michael Helman as a part of this 40-man roster?
Yeah, we can't have Harrison Bader. The best we can do is Michael Helman for our backup center fielder. I think that's exactly what he'll be. He's cheap. He's not millions of dollars. It's cash considerations. He can play any position on the diamond well enough as a backup. He's a right-handed hitter. His 116 WRC plus in AAA last year is pretty enticing, especially since some of that came with the power. You mentioned his home runs and his doubles. He's just a nice 26th man to have. That's all it is. It's nice to have the Cardinals make a major league move, though, nonetheless, on February 7th.
Can we call him Tommy Edman Light? Can we call him
Yeah,
that?
sure.
I know he's not the switch hitter, but the idea of what Tommy Edman was, where you can pretty much put him wherever you need to, and he's not gonna hurt you, right? He's gonna be able to pull it off, be pretty capable defensively, add some speed if that power stays the way it was. I mean that's a bonus, but can we go Tommy Edman Light? Are you cool with that?
Yeah, why not? We could use another Tommy Edman.
And because a guy that we had talked about, Garrett Hampson was a guy that was a major league guy, similar type of person. And when you look at, hey, we're trying to cut costs, do we need to go? Do we have to pay a veteran, or can we find somebody like Mr. Helman to help us out? And he became available. So it makes sense for what the Cardinals are doing this year. A guy that, like you said, 26 man, put him anywhere you need to, and he's not going to kill you. This is not the guy that's going to make a difference day in and day out. At least you're hoping that he doesn't have to be that guy. So just a solid Cardinal move. It's not going to hurt you whatsoever to get a guy like this. They also grabbed a couple of pitchers, Nick Anderson and Rob Kaminsky. Anderson is the one that caught most people's eyes because a couple of years ago, pretty good relief pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays. Had a solid 2023 season with the Braves. Last year, he's with the Royals, so he's been with some successful franchises. Got some stats here for you dating back to 2019. 158 and a third major league innings, 3.18 ERA, 39 holds, 10 saves, 31.6% career strikeout rate, 7.3% walk. You like that? 15.4% swinging strike rate. Really what the problem with Nick Anderson is, he's 34 years old. Injuries. Injuries have been the problem, but we talked about, hey, maybe a veteran guy in the Andrew Kittredge role that, that's a spot that the Cardinals were trying to fill with. Then it didn't necessarily have to be a veteran guy, but that's the role that they're kind of, trying to make some competition for, which we'll get to in your position battles later. But your thoughts on, Nick Anderson and the Cardinals signing him with a chance to make the roster?
Yeah, a lot of the chatter this offseason has been Arenado, but behind that has been who's going to replace Andrew Kittredge. And when I saw the signing, I saw his age, I saw a right-handed pitcher, I saw injuries, I saw Tampa Bay Rays. I was like, this is Andrew Kittredge 2.0. Why not? He has the track record there for some good back-end success. It's a minor league deal. There are the amount of bad minor league deals could probably be counted on one hand in all of baseball history. Like, it doesn't hurt anybody. Just cut him, you're out X $1,000. So I think it's a great addition that could pan out well for the Cardinals throughout the year.
Then lefty Rob Kaminsky got inked to a minor league deal, 30 years old now. Many of you will remember that Kaminsky has been with this franchise a couple of times already. First signed with the Cardinals back in 2013, was the 28th overall pick that year. So former first rounder, made his pro debut at the age of 18. He's a left-hander. Over his first 3 years in the Cardinal system, he was pretty good. 217 and a third innings between rookie and high A. 2.15 ERA, 2.90 FIP. Cardinals ended up trading him. Do you remember who they traded him for? Because it was a while ago.
No, but you're going to tell me and I'm going to kick myself for not remembering.
He very briefly with the Cardinals. Brandon Moss. He went to Cleveland, who were still the Indians at the time. But Brandon Moss, the powerful left-handed bat back in the day, who probably, if Moss was a player in this day and age compared to when he was back then, probably would be an all-star at this level. The way, it was like strikeout or home run. It was basically what he did. And, had some decent success with the Cardinals while he was here, but it cost them Rob Kaminsky. Your thoughts on another minor league deal, but what's the phrase? Can never have too much pitching, right?
Yeah, no such thing as a bad minor league deal. Can't have too much pitching. I just throw him in the minors, see what he could do. If an injury pops up later in the year, he might be one of the first names up on the list, but we'll see. He doesn't hurt anybody as far as young players and blocking them, so why not add to the depth?
Yeah, and that's probably what it is. It's probably just depth at AAA for the team, and if you need him in a pinch, yeah, you can bring him up if that has to happen. But yeah, none of these moves are like earth shattering or super exciting, but neither are the Cardinals right now. You know, this is on par for what they plan on doing, and the reason why that you're not seeing them go out and spend money or go get a big name is they like a lot of the guys they already have, and that's been why this offseason has been so dull and boring, is that they're quite comfortable. Like, first off, they don't want to go spend a lot of money on anybody anyway, but they're quite comfortable with the people that they have on their roster already, and there's a lot of talent there that they're hoping will make that next step, which creates what we like to call in spring training position battles. And that's something you did a write-up about recently. So we're going to go through those and some of the battles that you are keeping an eye on. We'll discuss them next on Locked On Cardinals. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, and who isn't, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. FanDuel, it makes NBA games even that more fun to watch, even when you live in a city that, doesn't have an NBA team like St. Louis. Used to have the Hawks. I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but that used to be a thing. The Hawks used to be in St. Louis, but they don't have an NBA team. And when you're in a city that doesn't have something like that, which is how I became a Packers fan, because St. Louis, we didn't have a football team for the longest time. You can adopt another team for, that you're rooting for a late game rally, or maybe you just want to pick a favorite player to do something big and hit a clutch three. The Luka Doncic trade obviously is a big thing going on in the NBA, set to make his Lakers debut tonight on Monday. That's the plan. Jimmy Butler, Golden State Warriors, that was a big deal. Looked strong in his first game with them on Saturday. So you can go just singular and go for one particular player that you're following and enjoy. So app's easy to use. You already know that. And when you win, you get paid instantly. So right now, new FanDuel customers, you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. You can leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. Your feedback is always welcome and encouraged. All right. So we've talked about the new additions. Some of them might come into play at some point when it comes to position battles here in spring training, which begins this week. Thomas Gauvain from RedbirdRants.com is joining us. And let's talk about some of the battles you brought up in a recent write-up. We'll have the link in the show description down below and in the show notes, so you guys can check that out. And eventually, as it always happens, you go down the RedbirdRants.com rabbit hole, and then you've spent 5 hours on the internet, and it's a lot of fun. But let's start off with the battle I'm excited about, because there's a reason for this battle to be happening, and that's in center field, Thomas. Three guys who all have strong argument why they should be getting time in center and be the starter. You got Lars Nootbaar, who is a combination of offense and defense. We know he's a spark plug in the clubhouse and in the dugout. Michael Ciani, who stepped onto the scene last year, outstanding defender. Short on the offensive side of things, but like when he was out there last year, he was Gold Glove caliber worthy center fielder, which is a big deal when you got somebody who can cover that much ground. And then you've got Victor Scott II, who has got the speed and the wheels that could be, quite the game changer, and what a weapon he could be when he is getting on base. Offense was slow last year, but he's a prospect that you're hoping will continue to progress. Tell us your thoughts on this battle and why it's so intriguing to you.
Yeah, I saw your post as well on Twitter X. This is probably the most interesting of the position battles. If the Cardinals want to go offense, they should put Nootbaar in center. If Arenado's still there and they want regular reps for Gorman and Donovan, you almost have to put Lars Nootbaar in center field just to have Donnie in left and Gorman at second. But I think there's also an outside shot that Victor Scott II goes off in spring training this year. His demeanor at winter warmup was very reassuring. He seems invigorated. His defense is at least comparable to Siani, maybe a little bit shy of it, but still it's solid defense out of center field. If I had to guess, Michael Siani would be our opening day center fielder, especially if Arenado is traded. But I think it'll be an intense competition between those three guys. And then you throw in Michael Helman in the back. He won't start by any means, but you've got him as an option and a backup fourth outfielder possibly.
Yeah, and Ollie has spoke glowingly about what Michael Siani did in center field last year, a guy that took us all by surprise. Nobody knew the hell he was when they grabbed him up.
Mozeliak couldn't even pronounce his name in spring training.
Like it was like, okay, who is this guy or whatever? And then, because of all the injuries that happened in spring training last year where Newt goes down and Carlson goes down, and you're just like, whoa, oh my gosh, who is Michael Siani? And then he comes up and Cardinal fans will always appreciate great defense, and it's something that they haven't been great at the last year or two. And to see what he was doing in center field, it was exciting. He was one of my favorite players to watch last year. And but who is he in reality? Like, is he a guy that you really want starting in center field for you each and every day, or is he somebody that you would love to have as just a left-handed bat off the bench who gives you this great defense? In a perfect world, Nootbaar can stay healthy, right? That's what we're hoping for. And he gives you kind of a little bit of everything in center field. Again, as you mentioned, if Arenado is not moved, because that's part of the numbers crunch here, is that you got to shift people around because you're not going to bench Donovan and you want Gorman to, we'll get into all of that. But Nootbaar being forced to kind of move over to center field to play just to keep his bat in the lineup, because where were the Cardinals the worst at last year? Offense is something they desperately need. And to have Siani out there, who over his career has not been a great hitter, you're kind of like, oh gosh, are we just going to go down that path again where we're still lacking offensively?
Yeah, Siani, when you got to the bottom of the lineup last year, there was three non-factors: Pedro Bajes, Michael Siani, and then whoever else you want to put in there. He had a WRC plus of 64 last year. That might have been the lowest figure for a person who had as many plate appearances as he did. I haven't checked that, so don't quote me, but that's bad offense that we just can't afford this year. He's a great fourth outfielder. Bring him in for defensive purposes in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning. Maybe he gets lucky and hits a home run as off a righty reliever late in the game, but he should not probably be the everyday starting pitcher, but he probably will be. Center fielder, sorry.
Yeah, and Victor Scott, like, it's just kind of the unknown, and like you said, like if he goes off this spring, awesome. That's awesome. Like you hope something like that happens, and it seems like a lot of these younger guys who have already started working with Brant Brown are pretty excited about what he's bringing to the table thus far. So we hope for good things. But if you had to put a bet down right now, who do you wager as your starting center field on day number 1 of the season?
I'm going to cheat and do 2 bets. If Arenado stays, it's Nootbaar. If Arenado's gone, it's Siani.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's move over to another position that is also going to be, it depends on what's going to go on with Arenado. Second base, also a spot where you've got 3 guys that you want in your lineup every single day. You would love to have all 3 of these guys in your lineup every single day. There's just not room for it at the moment. You've got former Gold Glover Brendan Donovan. You've got slugger Nolan Gorman, and then you've got one of your top prospects in Thomas Ujasi. Tell us about this position battle and what you think might happen here.
You're going to hear this a lot. It depends on what happens with Nolan Arenado.
It really does, and that's part of the hang of everything, and that's why the Cardinals, we've all been stuck in neutral all offseason, is there's nothing to get excited about until we know what the hell's going on with over at third base.
Yeah, if he's still here, it's going to be, probably Brendan Donovan at second base, but like we just talked about, he could move to outfield, and that opens up time for Gorman. That's the issue here. It all depends on where Arenado goes. I would not be surprised if Ujasi starts and plays a lot of time at AAA this year. It serves him no benefit to sit on the bench and be a 10th man out there on offense or on defense. Let him get his regular reps in AAA, keep on raking, keep his confidence where it needs to be, and then let the major leaguers figure out second base. But it'll be very interesting what happens here. It's not so much a competition here. It's more where does Arenado go?
Yeah, it's a numbers game, really, because you think all of them are majorly capable. It's not like you're worried about any of them. Like, yeah, the Gorman strikeouts and stuff like that is a pain in the ass, and you get annoyed by it. We all do, but it's also if he elevates his game where he is putting the ball in play more, and he continue to be that guy that you've seen in spurts where he's going to strike out 2 times, but it pops a 2-run bomb in the game as well, and you're kind of like, well, I can live with the 2 strikeouts when that happens. So defensively, obviously Donovan is the guy. If your best infield with Arenado on the roster still is Donovan at second defensively, in my opinion. I mean, you love him over there at second base. He's so smooth and beautiful over there. And it's been unfortunate that we've had to stick him in left field because of injuries and stuff, because he is so good at second base already. Like, how many people move their best second baseman to left field and keep him there? Doesn't happen very often.
No.
And, I would like to see him be able to make a home there at second base and then fill in the outfield when he needs to. But the Sajacy stuff, again, if he has a really good spring, it's going to make this even more difficult. But I agree with you. I think a lot of us are starting to get on board with the fact that he might not see as much time in the major leagues unless either the trade happens or some injuries happen, which you don't really want to see. That would be unfortunate. But this is also a guy he's not like 25, 26 already. He's going to be 23 in April.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's an old guy and he's running out of time and the clock is ticking on his career. Like, it's okay if he's at AAA this year. I think we'll be okay with all that, and it won't be too much of a fuss.
Yeah, and I didn't list this guy either. I'd be very surprised if he debuts this year, but JJ Weatherholt is also in there somewhere for the infield discussion. Thomas and JC may be lost in between this year and next year when Weatherholt is probably ready. Thomas and JC's in a tough spot here.
A little bit of a tough spot, but the more I've been hearing interviews and stuff, Derek Gould had a good one with JJ, and it was interesting to hear him talk about hitting and whatnot. But the more things I look at, like, a lot of people are saying third base is his future and not second base. So maybe
I've even heard center field too. I think it was Kyle Reese mentioned center field a few weeks back for JJ down the road.
Oh boy. See, this is what we do, and I hate this because that is not why are we sticking him in the outfield now? You just took him 7th overall. You're gonna move the I'm tired of this crap. No, stay on the infield, make him play short, second or third. Mason wins there, obviously, but so second or third. Stop doing that stuff. All right. Why are we doing this? Like, I don't want to hear that at all.
Right.
We just talked about we got 3 out center fielders already. What do we need?
Yeah, right.
Weatherholt moving out there. Stop it.
A fourth. Let's get it.
Talk about this. No more. All right. Let's talk about one more position battle before we move on to the pitching stuff. Behind the plate this year, we got to see a lot of both of these guys last year. Ivan Herrera, Pedro Pages, both did good at what they're good at, where Pages is the more defensive guy and Ivan Herrera has got the stick that appears to be something that will be very good at the major league level. Throwing out runners was a problem for everybody who wore a Cardinal uniform last year. How do you see this battle going down at spring trading this year?
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page here. It should be Ivan Herrera as the regular catcher. Now, that doesn't mean he's catching 140 games next year. What it probably means is he's getting 90 to 110, and then Pages fills in the rest of it. Herrera had a 301 batting average, which would have only outpaced Michael Helman last year for the Cardinals. Let that be noted. And he was one of the best offensive players for the team last year in an otherwise anemic offensive season. Pages probably has preferential treatment when it comes to the organization. They love his framing, which, don't get me started on catcher framing. I think that's crazy. But his 83 WRC plus is not overly inspiring, especially for a club that needs more offense. I would pick Herrera. I think it's a pretty 50-50 split. And once again, whoever does win this competition is probably just getting an extra 20 starts at catcher over the other guy.
Yeah. What I'm hoping, is that Ivan Herrera figures out how to be a better catcher. And he improves, and that goes along with the bat, which is already pretty darn good. So that's what I'm hoping for. And then Pages is that guy, like you said, he catches twice a week. something like that. Or Yvonne needs a day off. Maybe you need some rest. Yvonne can also do some DHing if he needs to. You know, there's different ways to move this around. You do mention also some of the younger guys, because the Cardinals have a nice stable of catchers in the minor leagues as well. Jimmy Crooks is obviously a name that you might want to keep an eye on this spring because of how good he just missed being a top 100 prospect, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He'll be in there by the end of the year, I'm sure, especially if he produces the way he did last year.
Yeah, and we know how catchers, injuries happen, man. Those poor guys get beat up behind the plate a lot. Yeah. So if they do have to dip into the minor leagues, you've seen the Cardinals go with that 3-catcher rotation at times before because of injuries and stuff, which was, we hated
Let's not do that again.
I know we hated it, but we understand there was reasoning behind it where you're like, I get it, but it still sucks. But Jimmy Crooks is a guy, keep that in your back pocket as a name to keep an eye on. Obviously had a huge year last year, was the offensive player of the year in the minor leagues for the Cardinals. So he's a guy that he can hit, man, and he had some pretty good defensive stats in the minors. Granted, I know it's the minors, but still, it gives you some hope that he seems like one of those guys that can do it all type of catchers. We're going to talk about the pitching battles with Thomas Gauvain from RedbirdRanch.com coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, head on over to Locked On MLB. My man Sully is hosting things. He's got that nice little blend of humor in baseball. He is an encyclopedia of baseball stuff, going especially for our veteran fans. I'm not going to say you're old. Veteran fans. The dude tells story after story. And you're like, how do you remember all this stuff? He's just got that kind of brain. It's incredible. So if you haven't checked him out yet, do so. Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thomas Gauvain from RedbirdRanch.com joining us today. Recently did a write-up about some of the position battles that he's keeping an eye on this spring as we get ready for pitchers and catchers to report in a couple of days here. Starting rotation has 6 viable guys right now. Health obviously is a big thing when it comes to starting pitchers. But the battle for the number 5 spot seems to be the most intriguing for you, Thomas. You've got a veteran going up against a former first-round pick. Tell us about this number 5 battle.
Yeah, I think the top 4 spots are set. It's going to be Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Plante, and then Miles Michaelis in those spots. And then the 5th spot is a little bit more up in the air. Steven Matz and Michael McGreevy would be the 2 main guys there. We know who Matz is at this point. He's injury prone, but his best year was 105 innings a couple years ago, and it was pretty good numbers behind that. And then we have McGreevy, who made a 1.91 ERA for 4-outing season last year in his rookie debut. It could go either way. Honestly, I see more value in moving Matz to the bullpen, where he can dial it up a little bit. He's working in shorter stints, and there's a lower injury risk. And Michael McGreevy, he pitched 170-plus innings last year, which is a starter's load in the majors. He's ready. He's conditioned for it. And he showed a good amount of performance last year in a short stint. So I'd prefer McGreevy. I think it was Derek Gould who also recently talked about a 6-man rotation, especially with Sonny Gray's health concerns. And then to keep Eric Fetty. I mean, last year was his first year back in the States, and he threw quite a few innings. So just to maintain health, to keep the 6-man rotation, I'm not opposed to that. It's just not something you see very often.
Yeah, pitchers are weird, man. They're like, no, I got to do it this way and that way. We just had Ian Bedell on.
Yeah, right. I heard that.
And he was going through some of the things that, this has to be this way, and this is when I crack my energy drink, and this, and they're very meticulous about the stuff. And when you start messing around, going from 5 to 6, I don't know what happens to them. It just throws them off. And you want to keep everybody as calm and as happy as possible. We've talked about this before. I'm not going to change my mind on this. It does us, the Cardinals, no good to have Steven Matz as your number 5. What he is. He's probably going to get hurt. Well, and that at some point, this is what I think about too, is that if you're really concerned about what your future is going to be, and you want to know if Michael McGreevy is a top 3 kind of guy heading into next year, we're not worried so much about this year. This is the year where you're trying to figure out what people can do, right? Well, What are you sticking him in the bullpen for? That doesn't make any sense. We already know what Matz can do. And let's be honest, they're gonna see a game where Miles Michaelis goes 2 1/3 inning and gives up 9 runs, and then you're gonna bring in a Michael McGreevy. You're gonna make him pitch that. I'd rather just let Matz do that kind of crap. I don't need to see your former first round pick, who you think might have a really good future, doing mop-up duty or just coming in randomly in a sixth. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's what Steven Matz is for now. Like, you don't worry about it. He's not a key cog in your organization anymore. Like, that time has passed, and it's time to use him in a role that is more suitable to make the rest of your future more clear in my eyes. So me and you agree on this. So I'm just yelling at myself right now. I'm not yelling at you. I don't even understand the process of even thinking why Steven Matz should be in the rotation this year whatsoever, and how that makes any sense. But I've seen the Cardinals do this before where, well, he's the veteran and he's making 11. Who gives a crap? You already paid him. The money's already gone. That's your fault.
Yeah, right.
Let's move on to the bullpen really quick, Thomas. I'm getting heated. We know you can never have too many arms in a bullpen. Every bullpen goes through this. Nobody stays completely healthy. The Cardinals did a pretty good job last year of and I'll credit to Ollie Marmol for keeping people healthy and keeping them, the innings as best they could do. They had a lot of tight games. So you were using Helsley and Romero and Kittredge over and over, and they were getting worn out at times, and you would see that. So you need as many fresh arms as possible. And there's a slew of guys down there where you're like, could they be something? Will they be something? Who are some of the names, and what are some of the battles that you see coming together this spring in the bullpen?
Yeah, slew is a nice way to put it there. For just spots 6 through 8, I had Steven Matz, Chris Roycroft, Kyle Leahy, Gordon Graceffo, Riley O'Brien, Ryan Loudis, and newly acquired Nick Anderson as options. We just talked about Matz in the bullpen, so that takes up one of those spots. And that gives them a lot of lefties. It's Romero, Liberatore, John King, and then Steven Matz at this point with all those lefties. So they're going to throw in a couple of right-handed pitchers. I think Riley O'Brien's stuff is enticing. Whether he can A, stay healthy, and B, implement that stuff is question mark. So he'd be a good choice. Gordon Graceffo, I've heard some whispers about his velocity sits around 92 to 94, but he could probably tick up to 96 in a relief appearance, and he could throw some good bullpen innings, be a bulk guy in there. We talked about Nick Anderson earlier. Chris Roycroft, Lautis, and Kyle Leahy have all had experience. So it's not like it's a bunch of scrubs. It's just guys that you're throwing in the back of a bullpen.
Yeah, and when it comes to the bullpen, usually this is how it usually works, where, you got one or two like premium guys, and then it's usually some guys that you're like hoping will step up and can eat some innings for you. You're not going to have a bullpen that, looks like the Dodgers starting rotation where it's just name after name. Like, doesn't usually happen. Okay. Not all teams can pull that off. And you're hoping that some of these guys who have found success in the minor leagues, like a Matt Swanson or an Andre Granillo, other guys who have closed in the minor leagues, that maybe they can take on more prominent roles at some point as well. So like I said, the key in a bullpen is as many arms as possible. Just keep them coming, keep churning them out, and hopefully a few of them end up being better than you thought. I mean, when we traded for JoJo Romero, did anybody go, yay, look at that, he's going to be a big piece of our puzzle? No, nobody knew. And
no, but he could smash energy drinks. I'll tell you what, that video of him hitting the can on his head.
But like he stepped up. He became a better guy. And, we as Cardinal fans, as much as people like to bag on Dusty Blake, we've seen some success stories with since he's been here. That first year was a little tough. It was a tough year for everybody. But we saw some success stories next year. And you see people seemingly getting along with everything that they're talking about and the philosophy of what they're doing as pitchers now. So, keep them coming. And then you've got guys that the Quinn Matthews of the world and the Teen Kenses and stuff like that, just waiting on the horizon. You don't want to rush them, but they're also guys that could move up and be a part of this roster at some point later in the year. But spring training wise, like the names that you mentioned, again, the link will be down below in the show notes and in the description. You click on that, but you've got all the names listed and stuff. And these are just some guys that when you see them on the roster, when opening day gets here, you won't be surprised. Thomas has given you the names and the updates of who they are. And so you'll be like, yeah, I already know about this guy. You'll be smarter because of Thomas. Know that.
Hopefully, I don't know. So don't take it as gospel.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up here today on your Monday. Again, redbirdrants.com is where you can find all of the work for Thomas Gauvain. You actually had a cool story with so for those of you who don't know, you've been doing different stories about different members of Cardinals lore, whatever, and you went to the music side of things on a new article, which is Jeremy, who also does the Blues games as well. So he's got the cool jackets and the hats and stuff. Cool guy. So
he was awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys need to check out that article under redbirdrants.com. Thomas just posted that one up here recently as well. And give him a follow on Twitter and all the other jazz that Thomas does. So thank you as always, buddy. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, JD.
And thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow, Twitter X, LO_Cardinals, and JD Sports Radio. We are working on getting the Instagram and the TikTok and all the other stuff. That's all coming. It's all on its way. I was in a meeting the other day about it all. It's all coming to you. Don't worry. Like, subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. We will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.